Good afternoon. The time is now 3:30. We'll open the City of Norwood Planning Commission meeting. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Present.
Mayor Schneider,
Present.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Present.
Mr. Hockney,
Present.
Mr. Sewer.
Item B, approval of the agenda. I'll make one modification, which is to remove item C, the approval of the minutes. We do not have the minutes from the previous meeting at this point. And I will recognize Mr. Sewer is now present. I have a second to amend the agenda as stated.
Seconded.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger.
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
Yes.
Moving to item D, public hearing. Mick Oakes, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, representing 4500 Beach LLC, owners of 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, 45212, north of Robertson Avenue, located within an M2 heavy manufacturing zoning district, is requesting a minor amendment to an approved planned unit development plan. Mr. Oakes?
Good afternoon. My name is Mick Oakes, a representative of PLK Communities. The minor planned amendments was from the previously approved MCC North or Phase 2 PUD. And at the request of the city and some of the neighbors, there was the middle roadway that exited onto Robertson. Was requested that that be capped off and made just a hammerhead turnaround. So at the request of the city and some of the neighbors, we have updated our PUD to reflect this. So yes, be happy to answer any questions on that.
Questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Oakes. We'll now offer an opportunity. We'll open the public hearing to take public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in favor? Sir? If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name.
Richard Hoseas. I own a two-family on Park Avenue, and I was just wondering about parking situation in Factory 52. Oh, I like the entertainment district and all that. There's no clear parking sign as far as so they have an event down there. They park completely on Park Avenue, everybody that's going to Factory 52, where they have plenty of parking in the back, but there's no sign really telling anybody where to park. So late at night, if my tenant comes home and has to walk all the way from down the street by herself, she's a young lady, it's kind of a scary situation at night. So I just wonder if they could have, put up special event signs when they have a big event, parking in the rear like they have, but nobody seems to know about it. And it's not clearly marked. Or something to the effect of on the street, Park Avenue, residential parking only. Those are my problems with the issues down there at Factory 52.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed minor amendment? Anyone who would like to speak opposed to the minor amendment? Anyone who would like to speak opposed? Anyone who would like to speak opposed? Seeing none, I'll now close the public hearing for item D1. Was there somebody who wanted to speak opposed? Seeing none, now close the public hearing for item D1. Questions or discussion from the commissioners?
I think PLK noted that they took resident concerns in and shut off this portion of it, which was an exit out to it, and they made the changes they requested. So, I don't have anything else to comment about it.
Other questions or discussion from the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Mayor?
I move that the Norwood Planning Commission approve the minor amendment of the approved Phase 2 Planned Unit Development Overlay Zoning District.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer,
Yes.
Moving to item D2, Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is requesting that the City of Norwood Planning Commission waive all PUD requirements for this project from the existing PUD property south of Robertson Avenue, 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, 45212. Mr. Oaks?
Thank you. Mick Oaks, PLK Communities. It's been 10 days since we last came and had a public hearing, public discussion rather, on this Robertson South PUD. This is this few different times that we have revised and resubmitted with comments from the city and other parties into it. So we do feel that the PUD that we have presented has been revised and meets code across the MBD underlying zoning district, PUD separate from all of Factory 52, and the contiguous PUD to the Factory 52 previously approved. A few questions that came up from the meeting I'd like to address, primarily the open area space. We're still exploring ideas on how we can meet the open area requirements. It does seem to be a gray area for us as to be what is considered. In our minds, the two options are we could remove those trees and put grass there. I don't know if that's the best case scenario for open area space. Other places have been trees do include into an open area calculation, but that's something we're willing to work on. And if there's a recommendation, we'd be happy to look into that to meet that requirement. We also talked about the detention pond, how currently that's not included into the open area. And it's shown as continuously dry. In events of a storm, it would retain some water, but we could flip that as well and make that a permanently wet pond. And we adjusted some of the road widths at the request of meeting fire department code and giving back some of those turning radiuses. So had a great discussion last week. Be happy to answer any additional questions that have popped up since then. But we do feel that we're compliant across 3 different routes for zoning approval. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Oaks? Thank you, Mr. Oaks.
Thank you.
Now I'll open the public hearing. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed waiver of the PUD requirements. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Offering an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Seeing none, offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed to the waiver of the PUD requirements. Sir, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name.
Tony Boyle. I'm a current resident on Robertson Avenue. I do believe this is now the 4th meeting that we've had in terms of this specific development. And throughout the 3 prior meetings, residents have obviously expressed concerns. I know even council has expressed concerns, and those have been with the density of this development due to its close proximity with 30 different current homes and properties. We've expressed concerns with traffic, flow of traffic, infrastructure, drainage, and green space. Green space must be readily available and usable. So I think waiving the PUD would not be responsible, as we've all voiced concerns. I think there should be oversight in terms of this development. And then also, according to the waiver of PUD codified ordinances, in order to waive a PUD, the following conditions must be met. Subsection B, it shall be harmonious, and such use shall not change the essential character of the same area. This is all 2.5 wooded acres natural landscape that would all be demolished for buildings. This area currently is 30 homes that are all 1 or 2 stories high. This development would be 3-story townhomes. Subsection C shall not be hazardous or disturbing to neighboring uses. This is basically in the backyards of 30 people's homes. In my case, my side yard as well. So I'd be surrounded on 3 sides by this development. We have not addressed traffic yet. There's been no changes to drainage, to infrastructure, to roads. So I believe there's a major gap there, and it would be hazardous, and obviously construction noise would be very disturbing. And then subsection F shall not involve uses, activities, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person's property or general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic and noise. I would say that this development would absolutely increase noise and absolutely increase traffic. So I think the waiver of a PUD would be in violation of those 3 subsections of the codified ordinance.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed to the waiver of the PUD requirements. Ma'am? If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Ann Gimbert. I'm a resident of the city of Cincinnati, and I support the Norwood residents against the predatory practices of PLK communities. The residents of Norwood deserve city officials who respond to their concerns that the developer PLK is negligent in its responsibilities. Whether it's building driveways that are too short and cannot fully accommodate cars, or building streets that are too narrow for first responder trucks, or not providing adequate parking for events, or not conducting traffic studies to protect pedestrians. Peter Kleekamp and Nick Ligenfelder of PLK Communities are Indian Hill residents. Indian Hill has strict zoning laws to protect its residents from developers. Think the green belt of Indian Hill that protects its residents from unsightly developments and therefore, quote, maintain the village's unique character, unquote. Or Loveland, where Nick Ligenfelder recently moved from, which also has comprehensive zoning laws with detailed regulations for land use and development. Think downtown next to the Little Miami Bike Trail. Neither Indian Hill or Loveland would have any of these problems that the Norwood residents have voiced. Peter Kleekamp, the namesake of PLK Communities, sits on the board of the Cincinnati Country Day School, where the tuition is $33,540 a year, and his 2 kids just graduated, which means he spent a little over $67,000 a year for school. The median income in Norwood is $38,233. Meanwhile, the Peter Kleekamp Family Foundation gave $70 million to Xavier University. And yet, the Peter Kleekamp of PLK Communities is currently pursuing a 15-year tax reductions at Factory 52 at the expense of the Norwood City Schools. The Norwood Board of Education has filed a lawsuit against the city of Norwood. This developer is trying to write the new playbook for developers by developers to build luxury hotels, apartments, and homes and not pay taxes to support public schools. Peter Kleekamp and Nick Ligenfelder are Indian Hill residents, the 3rd richest zip code in Ohio and the 11th in the country. Kleekamp, Ligenfelder, and PLK Communities are not interested in the plight of the public schools and the gutting of the public school funding by state and federal budget cuts. Members of the Planning Commission, who are your neighbors? Are they the people who live and go to school in Norwood? Or are your neighbors the wealthy developers who don't live in the city? Please do not gild the Indian Hill lilies on the backs of the Norwood residents, the Norwood first responders, or the Norwood City Schools. Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed to the waiver of the PUD. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Ma'am? If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Diane Farrell. I live on Robertson Avenue. My concerns are with the additional tenants and office personnel. The roads are going to continue to deteriorate, and the roads are in really bad shape now, and I can't see how adding more traffic is going to make that situation better. We keep adding more development without addressing the increased traffic level, speeding, and pedestrian safety. I have questions. Can we get speed bumps to slow the traffic? Is Beach going to be made one way? Was the updated traffic study done that we were promised that the development was contingent upon? What are the measures that are being considered? I've heard that there are some things in the works, but we haven't heard of them. At least I have not heard of any of them. It's been 8 months since the safety issues were first brought up, and we haven't heard what measures are being taken. We had a "your speed caution" sign at the very entrance coming to Norwood from Oakley. I think it worked maybe 6 or 7 days of the weeks it was up there. That really wasn't very effective. In the meantime, the building continues. The 3 readings of the proposed ordinance are being condensed to 1, declared emergencies, and being expedited through the process in order for PLK to meet its goals. Can we please take safety off the back burner? The green space. I agree with Tony. It's just to put a driveway where 2 families live and have him surrounded on 3 sides and the other person, there's going to be traffic noise there. There's going to be loud stereos. I mean, that happens now sometimes on Robertson. You get people coming down the street and the stereos are very loud, and not just loud, it's the vibration, like the thumping. It's very loud and it's very disruptive, honestly. The driveway will eat away green space. It's going to reduce vegetation. It's going to increase the heat, the noise pollution, the light pollution. There's going to be headlights shining in property owners' homes all hours of the day and night. I just don't know how it's going to do anything but make those homes unlivable. It's going to disrupt the enjoyment of their yards and their homes and probably lower their property values. I don't think the residents should have to give up a use of their property so PLK can make an increased profit. In addition, there was a lot of conversation about the fire codes at the last planning meeting. It was suggested that maybe the codes PLK will have to abide by were maybe a little too stringent. I'm sure there's very knowledgeable people who wrote the different fire codes, but I believe the person who is in the best position to know whether there is adequate turning radius, adequate turning radiuses for the fire engines is the person that does that job, the fire chief. I would urge you, please don't disregard what he's telling you. Stormwater. What measures are going to be taken to control the runoff now and post-construction? Again, the heavy rains, torrents of water and mud running to the storm drains. Are there fines for this? Is there a plan for how this will be monitored? Will the retention pond be screened or fenced off? There was a child who just drowned in the past 2 weeks in Westchester. It is a safety hazard. And just in general, I feel there's been a lot of concern for PLK. I've heard comments like PLK wants this sooner rather than later. We just received a safety report this afternoon, but we're going to go ahead and approve it. And we're having the ordinances condensed 3 into 1 and declared emergencies to expedite things for PLK. There was even a recent vote on the abatement of the hotel. It was voted down, and the clerk urged members of council to reconsider their vote. I just haven't heard the same level of concerns for the citizens. And the decisions you're making, we have to live with for years. PLK will make their money, move on, but we will still be there, living there, and we have to, whatever's decided, it very much affects us. So I'm just asking for you to take our safety concerns seriously and consider the concerns of the hardworking tax-paying residents who make their home in this community. Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed to the waiver of the PUD requirements. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for item D2. Discussion by the commissioners?
No, I apologize for coming in late, but has there been an updated traffic study integrating the south development into the overall north development plan so that there's a comprehensive traffic study that's been done?
I have not seen that.
isn't that a requirement?
No. No. Maybe staff can answer that. There's not a requirement when there's a new development put in place. There's not a requirement for a traffic study to be put to the city prior to any action taken.
Well, PLK on the north side, there was a traffic study. So, and because I think there's nothing that I know of that's requiring the traffic study, but because this is such a sizable development, I think there should be a traffic study incorporating both parcels, north and south of the property.
In fact, my experience tells me it really doesn't specifically say that. What it says is, what would be the impact on traffic due to the development? So how do we know without a traffic study? How does the city of Norwood can communicate with the residents that everything's going to be okay with the additional 48 townhouses?
There's no requirement for a developer to provide a traffic study prior to any type of approval. Well, why would they spend money on a traffic study if they can't get any approval to even move forward with it? So I understand what you're saying, but a traffic impact study it's not free. Somebody has to put the money forth. And I know the developers in this situation, we're saying the developers just have, a God's load worth of money, but still, a developer wouldn't.
That's not my point at all, Dick. And my point is strictly being able to communicate with the residents in that area that in fact, this great development will have this type of impact. It may be positive. It may not have a serious, significant impact. But I'm just, from my experience, in other municipalities, this was not just Norwood. So, hey, I'm just asking the questions. Did we have one? And I think what you're saying, we have one for phase one.
Phase two.
Phase
One, I guess, there was one for phase one that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I wasn't here at the time, but there was one also for phase two.
Okay, and the reason we had it for that was?
For the impact of traffic flow.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
But the simple answer is no. There's not a requirement. There's no rule or regulation that says that a developer has to provide traffic impact study before development goes in, before they submit an application, before they submit anything. There's no rule or requirement that says that.
Okay.
It came in at the end, after all the construction documents came in, part of the traffic study, or was approved.
Further discussion?
Today, I took the opportunity to walk the property as well as I started at Leslie and walked around to Robertson, then went around Factory 52. I don't know how in the world an entrance on Leslie is going to work. It's so tight, cars were parked on both sides. All the side streets are going to be completely overwhelmed with traffic cutting through, trying to avoid Robertson. The streets aren't in great shape right now. I'm concerned about construction. I also have questions about the trees that face the neighboring backyards on Robertson. I have many, many questions, and I feel terrible the residents are being put through this. And I don't know, I feel like there's a fine line between doing what may be right for the city, but also I'm a resident of Norwood, and it's tugging at my heart. So I don't know what the right answer is, and I am hoping that maybe there's a way that we can have a compromise and everyone, they can be able to enjoy their backyards and have grill outs and have their grandchildren play without having concerns of people flying around and hitting their kids. I'm not sure what that answer is. One thing that came to mind is when I was looking at phase two, is there a way that we could bump that in towards Factory 52 to widen Robertson, or to make the, a berm in the center so that cars could get through, or make a wider entrance in going two ways. I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like there really has to be a solution so we can support our community members who chose to purchase their homes and have lived there, many of them for many, many years. I'm not saying that I believe in the development. I love Factory 52. I frequent the place. But I have some major concerns about South. I don't know how in the world all of those are going to go on that property.
Mr. Mayor?
Most of the concerns already expressed. The Beach Street with the additional traffic coming in, I just don't see how it can handle it. The regular project, like Ms. Sickinger said, I go over there quite a bit, enjoy the facilities, I love it. This project just seems like it's going to destroy a lot of happiness for a lot of Norwood people, and for no real good reason.
Mr. Mayor?
There's no entrance off of Leslie. I mean, Leslie butts into Beach, and that's where,
Sorry, I'm saying
that's
I'm
where
not
it comes
being-
in.
yeah, sorry, I
So
apologize.
that's one part. And I do understand there'd be some turning radius. If there's cars parked on both sides there could be some turning radius problems, because it's ultimately, it's just about a one-way street going over to Robertson. And Robertson, when you mention widening Robertson, it's like, widening? We wouldn't widen Robertson. We would do bump outs. We would make pedestrian improvements on there. But that's something that the traffic study would show and would make recommendations. My thoughts, and well, some of the notes I had for the Robertson part were more of making it more pedestrian friendly, not widening it, but putting the bump outs with pedestrian safety areas, putting crosswalks that are correct, and then how we make that street better all around. Ultimately, I don't see an island in the middle of it. A landscape island is not
I
really.
wasn't referring to it, and I'm sorry. I
Okay,
meant
but-
like turning.
Yeah. So those parts I don't see, but I do think a traffic study and some planning on Robertson. That we've always said that the intersection at Robertson and Beach is going to have to be looked at, because it was, if you recall, back years ago, it was a signalized intersection. It had actually the traffic light there. That traffic light was taken out 15 years ago, when basically, both of these massive manufacturing buildings became less and less active. So that was taken out of there. There was also some funding challenges there. But we've always said we think that there's going to potentially need to be some signalization there, and some signalization even potentially at Forest Avenue, where there's an intersection there. So there's still a lot that has to be done traffic-wise and to improve that. Pedestrian safety, I know there were statements made that people are getting hit. Somebody's getting hit constantly, apparently, but there haven't been pedestrians struck by cars in this area. There is a lot of pedestrian traffic. There are a lot of people that walk on my street on Floral Avenue, tons of them. And they are careful at their intersections, and people drive their cars, just as your neighborhood too. You see it all over the place. So those parts, I understand them. I also think there were a couple of points made, when they came up and talked about, okay, they can make, you look at some of the rules and some of the directions that are out there. Okay, so do we, to get this open space, are we telling them cut down all the trees and just make it grass, a grassy hill, because that will qualify as open space. But the trees being there doesn't qualify as open space. So the green belt that other communities have that really works out doesn't really apply to the city of Norwood. They need to mow down all the trees and put grass there, and then it'll qualify. I think there's some wisdom in leaving the trees there in the buffer zone and recognizing that as to meet the requirement for open space. I wouldn't want to cut all those trees down. I don't think any of the people in the neighborhood want any of those trees cut down. So that's a big part of it. And then you got the difference between a wet retention pond or a dry retention pond. A dry retention pond doesn't have water in it. It has to be mowed. It's grass. When the storm comes, yes, it fills up with water, but 99% of them, say 95, well, we're in Ohio now, in the area we're in, probably 80% of the time, there's not even water in there. It's dry. A kid could go down there and play baseball, play soccer, do whatever. But now we're saying, wait, in our wisdom, we have to make it wet. Let's make it a pond that holds water all the time, and then it'll meet the requirement for open space. Where's the wisdom in that? So there's a lot going on with that part of it. I also look at that open space and say, we live in the city of Norwood. I understand in a lot of suburban areas, they'll say you have to have open space because you need to put a park in because the kids can't walk down that road to get to. We are a pedestrian-friendly community. We have sidewalks everywhere. We have Marsh Park right down the street. We have Doral Field right across the street. Quite frankly, we have all the PLK stuff going on that's right down the street. So we have a ton of open space that works with this property. So I understand there are concerns with some of this, but I also think they are all workable. There's workable solutions. And myself, I look at this and say the challenge on Beach Street for the intersection of getting in and out of there, yeah, there's going to have to be some restricted parking right in that area because people are parking right there. That's not going to work for me. I think the first thing the fire chief would say is these areas cannot be parked in, these areas cannot be parked in. We can't get an ambulance or a fire truck in there. So I see some restrictions happening there, absolutely. I've walked this. I didn't walk this today or yesterday. I walked it my whole life as a kid growing up, delivering papers in the area. I've walked down to the end, the very end house, because it was always the person at the very end that got the newspaper and all the other ones didn't, but I had to walk down there and put it on their porch. I don't think you were living there then, but it's that house that I remember as a paper boy. And, it was even a concern that was brought up to me, saying at 28th Street and Millsbrae, right, and Robertson, that intersection, which is not really in the city of Norwood, but is that intersection, you have the continuous right-hand turn. And is there pedestrian safety in there? Well, I think that's something that Cincinnati's going to absolutely have to address also, because there's going to be a lot of people that are coming over from those almost $1 million Vandekar holding properties that are over there that are going to be walking over to Factory 52, most definitely. So there has to be improvements made to the traffic. There has to be improvements made to the pedestrian travel and pedestrian safety. Absolutely, 100%. I look at it also when people say, I'm not living in a neighborhood. I used to live on Robertson, and I had a great neighborhood. You had Robertson with houses facing a huge brick 4-story building with emergency fire escapes coming down, and loud. When I was walking past there, and when they were manufacturing, it was loud and it stunk. And that's what you had. And now these homes on Robertson are becoming part of the community. They will have homes across from them. And it's much different. I understand they'll have homes behind them also. I have homes behind me. I have homes in front of me. I live in Norwood. That's what my community is. I have homes all over the place. So, and I have a driveway right next to my house. And there's people that live on corners. That's how it is. So and I know this is we're really talking about the request to remove the PUD requirements, and this is probably way off of that subject. But, I don't look at this project as being detrimental to the city of Norwood. I think of this as a project that we have to get to the next step so that we can make the improvements that need to be made. So.
Further discussion or comments by the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to deny the request to remove the PUD requirement.
Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes?
Mrs. Signature,
No.
Mr. Hudson,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
So the request to waive the PUD requirements is denied. Moving to item 3, Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, requesting the city place a planned unit development overlay zoning district, PUD, on the .125 acreage known as 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio 45212, Hamilton County, Hamilton, Auditor Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0194-00, located within a neighborhood business zoning district, changing the zoning to NBD/PUD. Mr. Oaks?
Mick Oaks, PLK Communities. So the request for this one is a separate PD from Factory 52. The difference being from this and a later action item would be to include that into the Phase 2 PUD. And that's primarily because of the question of open area requirements. We believe that alone, the Robertson South exceeds the 25% open area space. But if there was some discussion on whether that were the case or not, it could be included into the next action item and make it a contiguous parcel in which all the Factory 52 combined open area space plus the question of Robertson South PD open area would still exceed the overall 25% open area space. I would like to make one comment about the traffic impact studies, just some clarification. So to date, we've had one traffic impact study, then we updated that traffic impact study with the Phase 2 MCC North. In the comment of deeming another one necessary, I mean, this is a relatively small development on the south side compared to all of Phase 2 and Phase 1 combined. We actually assumed 800 units in total, which we are still well below. And then we used the numbers from when both Factory was United States Playing Card and Multicolor Corporation were together. And the peak trip generation of when those two factories were operational was much higher than 800 multifamily units at Factory 52 assumed completion. So the infrastructure around Factory 52 on Beach, on Robertson, down Park Avenue, was already built to sustain a much higher level of traffic. And that's what our impact studies have shown, and that's what we've submitted to the city. So just a point of clarification on that, but would love to answer any other questions regarding the PUD being approved as a separate PD from the Factory 52 Phase 1 and Phase 2.
Questions from the commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Oaks.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing on item D3. Again, this is to overlay a planned unit development zoning district on .125 acres known as 2741 Robertson Avenue. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name.
Nicholas Slingenfelter on behalf of PLK Communities. Thank you all for your time today. And I want to, whether it's this version of the PD or the combined, I wanted to make sure I gave some additional clarifications of some questions that were asked to make sure that we properly address them. So the original PD came into city, I think Ralph had joined roughly right before we sent it in last June. So when this first came out, we actually had spaces dedicated on Robertson, and we were asked to take those off because we said, okay, well, maybe we dedicate or alternate parking to slow cars down as they drive down the road. Then we actually have been working with the state trying to say, how can we slow down the bridge, make repairs to the bridge, things like that with the city staff and administration. Unfortunately, that's a state bridge, so there's a lot of rules around that. So what we did, and I believe the first draft maybe didn't have the road as close to the bridge as we have it today, but we worked with our traffic engineers to put that entrance as close to the bridge as we could, because the intention is we do believe it needs a stoplight at some point. We know that. But unfortunately, we're not at the counts yet to get there. So the question is, how do we install that? We've never denied that it needs something else there. We're not opposed to traffic bumps. We're not anything. Like, we're willing to listen. We want to make sure it's as comfortable for the community as possible. So kind of going from there, just go up, a couple more feet. Well, why do we now have an exit on Robertson as well? And that is, I want to point out, that's an exit only. It is not an entrance. And that is because fire required two forms of access to a site. So our original plan that we had submitted last year, and even at the end of this year, or last year, I'm sorry, end of December, only had one entrance, and that was the one off of Beach Street, because that was the actual entrance and curb cut that exists to the current parking lot that Multicolor Corporation owned. So we capped that curb cut, and going up to how that entrance comes in, we then had the issue with the temple in the corner. So with the temple, we actually worked with them. We now have a solution to move that to allow them to have access in and out of their property and properly address that as well. Further, around January and February of this year, we had two different larger meetings held by members of council who asked us to come in and speak with the neighbors. We actually broke down traffic counts on each substreet and talked about how many cars are coming, from what direction they're coming from, because we're monitoring all that. Again, we don't want this to be negative. How do we make it right? Ultimately, the solution that we had was when we had a TIF on phase 2, there wasn't a TIF applied to this parcel. And the reason why is because there's going to need to be some infrastructure improvements. We know that. But again, these aren't our properties. We can't work on it. But what we did was allow the city to have the capacity to TIF our parcel, this one in particular, and with that excess revenue, then go make the necessary improvements that need to be done based on however that needs to be approved. We'd shown parking in the road. We showed all these different options. We've even tested out, like, if we exit a different route or put in different wayfinding, how does that solve the solution? Or how does that create a solution for the problem? But at the end of the day, we don't control that. But what we can do is control that bucket of money that allows the city to have the tool to put the proper thing in place based on what the neighborhood needs there. So that's why when we did our TIF for the last phase, we negotiated with the city to pull this sub parcel out, and any of that money now becomes that bucket available to make those improvements. So I wanted to kind of make sure that was there. But again, we have done a traffic study, we have done a full update, and we're not at capacity. The intention is then, as we continue to develop out the other side of Multicolor, we're hoping that we can get, you would get to the counts that would then support the stoplight to go in, because we have to hit ODOT standards. That's not, I just put a stoplight in. It's not allowed to do it that way. And again, what we have with the issue with the bridge is you've got the city of Cincinnati on one end, a state-owned bridge on the other in the middle, and the city of Norwood at the edge. So you've got these three really kind of differing parties that aren't exactly the easiest to make work, but Mr. Chairman Powers and his staff have been really helpful in trying to help us get that done. So we are actively engaged with the state saying, what are the solutions? But ultimately, there's not a lot we can do. And so what Mr. Oak said, we have a capacity much greater in our traffic study we've submitted to the city than what's there today. So it is not trying to skirt some system or try a different way. We actually have more capacity in the report than what's accounted for, and that's been submitted to the city since last year. So that is all done. I believe that was done around September, because when we started in that June summer timeframe last year, it was requested that we get it updated. So we did that, and that's why we came back in December. So I want to make sure we just clarify that we are actively doing this. We're not trying to avoid it. And we've actually created a process to have a bucket of money to install that infrastructure, but we can't do it ourselves. We have left that capacity and tool for the city to do that, should they choose to do that in the future. So beyond that, again, we haven't made a lot of changes. I think the important thing to know is, too, the underlying zoning is a business district zoning. So when we looked at it that way, it could have been a 5-story building parked in there. All that stuff fits under the zoning that's allowed. We didn't do that. We wanted it to be more of a residential feel. That's why we chose those 2- and 3-story, the 3-story townhomes here. We took an average height of the homes on the street. We're within 3 to 5 feet of the height of any home in that area. The other thing to look at is that site drops down. So most of those homes start to drop down very quickly, and they actually sit below because there is a bit of a bowl down there. That's why we have to locate the detention down in that bottom corner as well. So we have gone through now 4 rounds at least of changes through the city, making sure we've tried to properly address all the concerns. This is less impactful than the zoning actually allows for, which is significantly more units. But our goal was to make this fit more of the neighborhood feel and scale up, because the larger buildings are going to be located on the main factory site. So I'm glad to answer any questions, but I wanted to just make sure I clarified those points.
Hold it, stay there.
Mr. Mayor?
So to clarify, because there are traffic, you are doing traffic studies, you are monitoring traffic. you are working with ODOT to potentially make improvements to the bridge that goes over 71. The Ohio Department of Transportation controls that bridge and controls that part of Robertson Avenue.
Yes, sir.
What's your vision for that? When you say doing something there, what's that mean?
I believe that we need to have sidewalks. The sidewalks need to be completely ripped off. It might need to be redone. I live over in Sims Township, and we just did one by my house. And what they did was actually put a fence on the other side so families can safely cross back and forth. I think that needs to be done. We have to figure out how to do that within the framework of the width of the bridge, though, because we can't change the bridge. So, but there is a way to do it. We've actually had people from the state of Ohio, Chairman Powers joined us for this as well. We brought down ODOT representatives to make sure there's a right way to do it. It's a lengthy process, but we've started it. You usually hear around 5 years or so to get the funding, and then a year or two after that to get the work done. We're hoping we can get it done quickly, but with all the federal and state budget changes right now, we're just probably in that 5-year time frame. But our goal is to get it done. We would go pour the concrete ourselves tomorrow if we could. We can't. So it's not that we don't want to fix it. It's that we know it's a problem and we're actively working to address it for all the residents of Norwood and for our residents themselves.
Mr. Mayor?
Just a follow, the bridges over highways and over the Norwood lateral are like Siberia. They are the worst. So it'd be great if we could work to improve that bridge and then implement it some other places in the city. I know the pedestrian safety going right there by Midas on Smith, going across 71, that bridge is terrible also. And there's a lot of traffic, pedestrian traffic going across there. So it'd be great if you could make that, we could work together as the city, work with ODOT and work with you to make that improvement and then see if we can apply that in other areas around the city. So that's something that I'd love to see. The other part, you talked about traffic warrants, or you talked about doing a traffic study, and something that I've seen come through City Hall where they've said, we want to put a street light here, or we think you should put a stop sign here. And it's went to the safety director, and the safety director has went out to the engineering, and engineering has said, sorry, we did the numbers on the streets here. That doesn't warrant a stop sign here. If you had an accident there, after you put a stop sign up, you could be liable because you're going against the grain. Is that what you're talking about right now with sort of, you have to have the traffic to actually warrant those things? And when you say warrant, that's basically the justification for it, so that if there is an accident, you didn't put up something that was unjustified, and now there's problems with that.
Correct. And if somehow the calculations are off during that, and then all of a sudden the traffic is higher, then afterwards there's a way to do that. So we worked on a project in the city of Hamilton where we actually put the money in an account, very much like what we're trying to do here, where we said, hey, okay, there's TIF money available for the city to draw to guarantee the lights there. So even if they don't want to trust us, the city has the money in that account to do that. So what we did up there as well is put that money in the account for the stoplight, because we said, okay, we know it may need to be there, but right now the traffic warrants aren't there. And ODOT doesn't justify it. So we can't just go put one in. It's not allowed. So especially given that that's a state bridge. So what we did was we made sure the capacity is there to put that light in. Again, we think one will be necessary at some point somewhere in there, but we aren't at that point yet. So that our solution working with the city staff was to make sure that that money was available.
Mr. Mayor?
Just one last follow-up. What are your stance on the trees? Would you rather have the trees all cut down and grass there, or trees and a good buffer zone that has been there for years?
So the underlying zoning does not have a green space requirement. It doesn't. So if we built the property as it was zoned before the PD went on, there is no green space requirement. And then as we lay the PUD on, which is okay, that's where we're at. That is where it is created. So the answer is it's a tough one. I think it's, every city defines green space differently. Working with the city of Norwood's definition, certain things count, certain don't. For instance, if you had a trail through the trees, but what is a trail? That would actually count as green space. But we don't maintain trails, so how do we do that? And it's a difficult one. I would say if you counted the trees, you counted anything there, we're well over the requirements. It just doesn't. So that's why the option of keeping it as its own PD, or you put it with factory next door on a combined basis, you're well over them. So the three options were to look at it under underlying zoning that didn't have it, to look at it on its own, which that question lies, or you look at it as a combined PD where it's well above the thresholds. So I'm not here to argue the city's rules. It's the city's rules we're dealing with. So the question is, technically by the city's rules, if you take out some trees and you put down some grass, it counts. Seems a little ridiculous, but that's what it is. So we did what we thought was right, which was leave the trees.
Further questions from Mr. Lingenfelter?
Thank you, sir.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Seeing none, offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Tony Boyle. I live on 2739 Robertson Avenue. And I do appreciate your question, Mr. Mayor, about, do we want these trees taken down or not? Me personally, do not want the trees taken down, but although I do believe that open space, if we did plant grass, that is such a steep hill, the topography of that hill would not be a usable green space regardless if we took down the trees and planted grass anyways. So I think that's something that we definitely have to look at. But the trees do provide a nice sound barrier and privacy from the highway as they currently are. In terms of the traffic study, when was the last updated traffic study completed? I don't need it like
About, I would say, it was like last December.
Okay, yeah, because I know we had a meeting on November 6th, and that's when Phase 2 North was contingently approved, and there was an amendment that the approval was that any and all outstanding unaddressed safety items would be resolved before any building permits were issued.
Right.
To my knowledge, I have asked in writing, and I asked at last meeting, I'm not sure where the updated results of the traffic study are. And in addition to that, we're talking about Phase 3 now, Robertson South. Phase 2 is not even built yet. So how are we going to be approving Phase 3 or Phase 2 South when there is still 120 apartments being built, 74 townhomes being built, a hotel being built, 10 to 15,000 square foot mixed use building and event spaces? That's all not built yet. So whenever that's built, the amount of traffic on top of whatever traffic study we have that we're basing all of these decisions on, that's going to jump significantly. Personally, I think it would be responsible that we do a traffic study after each phase of development, and we do not approve 2 phases simultaneously because we have no idea what that next phase is going to bring in terms of challenges, negative impacts, or positive impacts. We don't know what that's going to bring yet. It's not built. But moving on, I know this is item number 3, which I believe is to change the zoning of 2741 Robertson Ave. Currently, I believe it's zoned as a neighborhood business district. And is this vote to change the zoning or to put a PUD on top of that, or both?
It's both.
Okay.
The change being that it would put the PUD
So,
zoning overlay on top of the property.
One question that I have is that as it's currently an NBD, would the developer be able to tear down the current structures that is there and build a road if this zoning change is not approved? Is that something that's allowed currently?
If they own that and it is, they own the property. They
Correct.
Tear down whatever on the property.
Correct.
And they want to, the way we had it designed, that they're using that to tie in to their property now. That's a PUD. By putting a PUD on it, it just makes the whole space kind of ruined.
I understand, yeah, they've acquired the property or will be, they can tear down the house, it's their property. My question is right now, per the zoning, would they be allowed to change that property, which is a house, into a road?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But it's a private drive, really.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate that. So as I stated, I'm the next door neighbor of this property that would be torn down. We've already seen the the designs, we know that as soon as the zoning gets changed, what's going to happen to this property. It will be demolished and it will turn into a road. My concerns, obviously, they've been voiced here before. Noise pollution is directly on my property line. It's a road. It's going to have to be lit at all times of the day. My property is going to be illuminated at all times of the day. But my big concern is, during the construction phase, what is going to be my buffer for noise, privacy, dirt, dirty runoff? What's going to be my buffer when that when the main development is being built? I have concerns because the house is going to be torn down and that road is going to be used as an access road, and that road's not going to be finalized in, full scale landscape buffering and all that until the whole development's done. So I'm going to have, a construction access road next to my house for I don't know how many months. And I have very big concerns of, what that's going to do to my property in terms of noise, pollution, runoff, and what is my recourse if my property is damaged during that construction phase.
I cannot answer about the damages, but I can say that it's a requirement that they put barriers up to prevent runoff of silt and anything onto any other property. So your property will be protected as per the codes and how to build it and so on. And usually what they'll do is they'll grade it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to grade it, you put down gravel down to the entrance into your property. So it is a drivable surface, because driving trucks on mud is not the best thing in the world. So they will put down gravel to make it easy. And it could be a construction entrance. But right now, the new design also, it will be a construction entrance during construction.
Correct.
But we have the new design, we work with them, that it's a one-way in, one-way out. So they come in one side and they go out onto Robertson.
I understand.
Trying to control traffic as opposed to two ways and possibly accidents.
Thank you. And I do understand that it is planned right now for a one-way. I just, have concerns on how we're going to enforce cars only turning right. Cars can turn left if they want to turn left. And then my other concern is, PUD does have to be in the best interest of residents in the city. There is a very simple solution to all of this green space and the road, which is rather than shoving 48 townhomes into a tiny area, maybe reduce that to maybe 42 or 44. And then that way, we would have a turnaround road for the fire truck instead of having an access road that is sandwiched between two properties and causing, almost unbearable living conditions for residents that have already been there. That would help solve some of the green space issue and help solve the turning radius with the trucks. I don't think it's astronomical to ask that, rather than putting 48 townhomes in here, maybe we just slightly reduce it to 44 or slightly whatever the number is. And that way we have green space and we're not tearing down a house and building a road next to two neighbors that have been there for years. That's just a consideration that I'd like to air out there, and appreciate your guys' time.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for item D3. Discussion by the commissioners.
Can I get just a clarification? So I think he stated this is to add the .125 acreage, to overlay and add that to the current PD that's over the property.
This item is just to add the PUD to that property. Item D4 below, if item D3 was approved, would combine the two into a single PUD. So this is just to add the PUD to the .125 acre property.
Okay.
Further discussion by the commissioners? Seeing none, we'll entertain any motion.
I'll make a motion to endorse and recommend to expand the existing 2.839 acreage neighborhood business zoning district with the planned unit development overlay. Is that the right one or the wrong one?
This is just to place a PUD overlay on the .125 acres.
That's listed as
D3.
No, while you're doing that real quick, that is this parcel that we're talking about, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Shown as a drive on the
Correct.
plans.
Correct.
So this is not to expand the existing. This is to,
That's correct. This item would just place a plain,
I did. I brought the agenda I was told to do.
this would just place the planned unit development overlay district on the .125 acreage known as 2741 Robertson.
That's not what I was looking at. This is the one that I have right here. This is the same one you had, right? Two oh four. Now I'm missing a page. All right. Okay. So then my recommendation would be to endorse the placement of the Planned Unit Development Overlay Zoning District and recommend it to the Norwood City Council on the 0.125 acreage known as 2741 Robertson Avenue. Norwood, Ohio 45212, Hamilton County Auditor Book 651, page 003, parcel 0194-00, located within a neighborhood business zoning district, MBD, changing the zoning to MBD PUD. That is the motion that I would make.
Do I have a second for the motion?
Seconded.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
No.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer.
No.
That's,
Voted.
go ahead.
Mrs. Town?
3 yes, 2 no, the motion passes.
Moving to item D4. Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is applying to expand the existing 2.839 acreage neighborhood business zoning district with a planned unit development overlay zoning district, NBD PUD, south of Robertson Avenue, known as 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio 45212, Hamilton County Auditor's Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0206, to include the 0.125 acreage known as 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio 45212, Hamilton County Auditor Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0194-00. Mr. Oaks?
Nick Oaks, PLK Communities. Just to confirm, Chairman Powers, this is the preliminary plan approval of the
This is-
PUD itself?
No, this is expanding the planned unit development overlay district on the south parcel to include 2741 Robertson.
Okay. Yes, so this property, at the end of last year, we identified as a secondary access route that was part of the initial revisions that we made to the first round of approvals. In discussion with the fire department, the turnaround space, we identified that this parcel would provide a fire truck access route. And we since have updated that, made it a one-way. So we went out, we're under contract to purchase this property, conditioned upon a plan approval. But in doing so with the city, that was at the request and recommendation of the city. So be happy to answer any additional questions on that, but we do deem this parcel necessary for this plan in order for access in and out of the site.
Questions from the commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Oaks.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing for item D4 and offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. An opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Seeing none, I'll offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
This one will be quick. According to Norwood Codified Ordinance 1155.12, intent and objectives, a PUD shall not change the essential function of the area. 2741, that was just had a PUD. That area is a house. It will now be an egress road. I would consider that violation of the code. That changes the absolute entire nature of that property. And then also with that PUD on that property and now joining the south property, I will be surrounded on all three sides by construction for many years to come and of PLK's development for the future. Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Seeing no further comment, close the public hearing. Comments and discussion by the commissioners?
Well, since we have two representatives from the fire department, and this was largely a portion of the egress and access for fire equipment, maybe we could ask the chief or assistant chief to come up and talk a little bit about what this change does to improve access for emergency vehicles.
Thomas McCabe, MCCABE, Fire Chief, City of Norwood. So I don't know that this plan is being approved. It's more of a PUD overlay, correct?
On this item, yes.
Right. So we've not seen any updated plans. Now, speak to the mayor's question regarding the egress piece, I think that was more of a requirement because they weren't going to meet the turnaround specs that are required by fire code in terms of their initial plan, with it being a dead end. Egress is certainly helpful for us in terms of moving fire apparatus through that location and exiting onto Robertson. But as to the entire plan, we've not seen a final. So to comment on accessibility for us, that egress certainly helps, but I can't offer much past that.
Further questions for the chief? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the commissioners?
I have a question about the legalities of the PUD. Do we have anybody from our law department here today that could answer questions about it?
Mr. Gary?
I'm here. I don't know what kind of question you got.
If you would please approach the microphone.
I know that you didn't have time perhaps to do the research on this, but Tony Boyle brought up quite a few issues. Are we opening ourselves up to legal action with this PUD overlay that we're giving South?
Well, I think legal action is possible in a lot of different scenarios. I'm not sure that, I don't think that, I mean, I suppose that any kind of legislation might be subject to it. And different property interests could seek to set aside things. but I'm not aware of anything in particular. Sure,
Thank you, Mr. Gary.
sure.
Further questions, comments, or discussion by the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is on number 4.
That's correct.
I move that the Norwood Planning Commission endorse and recommend to City Council the request to expand the existing 2.839 acreage neighborhood business zoning district, land use development overlay zoning, MBD PUD, south of Robertson, known as 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, Hamilton County, Auditor's Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0206, to include the 0.125 acreage known as 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio, 45212, Hamilton, Auditor Book 651, page 003, parcel 0194-00. That is my motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
No.
Mr. Hockney,
Yes.
Mr. Sewer,
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no, the motion passes.
Moving now to item D5, Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is submitting a preliminary planned unit development, PUD, plan for the property south of Robertson Avenue, known as 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio, 45212, 2.839 acreage, Hamilton County, Auditor's Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0206, located within NBD PUD Neighborhood Business District Planned Unit Development Overlay, including the proposed PUD expansion, 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio, 45212, Hamilton County, Auditor Book 651, page 0030, parcel 019400. Mr. Oaks?
Thank you. So just to clarify a few comments I made earlier, this is now the preliminary version of a PUD itself. It would not be included into the previously approved Factory 52 PUD, so it would be a standalone.
That's correct.
So that's where the discussion about the open area requirements. We do believe that this plan meets all of the PUD standalone requirements, but that's where we would leave it to the council to determine whether it would want it to be separate PUD or contiguous. Now that the 2741 Robertson parcel is made both PUDs contiguous. So happy to answer any other questions.
Questions for Mr. Oaks? Thank you, Mr. Oaks. Now open the public hearing for item D5. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor of the preliminary planned unit development. An opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thanks, sir.
To Mrs. Sickinger's question, I do believe this is a public hearing, correct? Not a public meeting?
Correct.
Okay. For a public meeting, notification is required 10 days in advance. For a public hearing, newspaper notification is required 30 days in advance and mailed to residents within 20 days. That is Ohio Ordinance Code 1117.11 and 1117.12. So if we just did a zoning change, proper notice for a public hearing is 30 days in the newspaper and 20 days mailed to property owners within 200 feet.
May I?
Yes, Mrs. Town.
Are those not for council? All planning commission did was make a recommendation to endorse it to council.
It says notice of a public hearing. That's what it's titled. maybe not. I think most of the concerns have already been addressed. Open space and privacy are two of the main ones. If we don't know what is coming from phase two, how can we responsibly approve an additional phase? We have no idea what restraints that's going to bring to the community. So I think that it's irresponsible to preliminary approve two PUDs at the same exact time because we have no way of knowing what phase two is going to bring. I'm not saying that we should ultimately deny this. I'm saying that we should at least at a minimum postpone it until phase two is completed because who knows what that traffic is going to bring? Who knows what the infrastructure is going to be able to handle, what the drainage is going to be able to handle. Again, in terms of privacy, if the development does not provide reasonable privacy, council can approve the following. Sorry, I lost my position here. What specific screening will be put in place to provide privacy? These buildings are 3 stories high. The current homes that they will be pushed in between are currently 1 to 2 stories high. So even if there is a perimeter fence, those buildings are still going to be looking down into our properties. So I don't know how we get around that privacy issue. Again, noise, and also I don't know if we can see an updated copy of the PUD. I do have one concern. On the last PUD, we saw the dumpster is conveniently located away from all of the residents, but it is in plain sight of the current homeowners that live there. So, if myself or any of my close neighbors look out of our backyard, we're looking at a dumpster bay. It's nice that it's off the main beaten path for the PUD residents, but for the current residents that live there, this dumpster would be right in our backyard. Again, those are some of my concerns. I think they've been said many of times with us here. And I would just like to add that per my understanding, the next agenda item is a final vote. I do believe that commission has 30 days to review the preliminary before deciding if we want to move to a final. So I would ask that all of the considerations and concerns that we've heard here today, rather than moving directly to a final vote, that we actually slow down and look at this PUD. There's not been a PUD presented to us today, so I'm not sure exactly what all we're approving, but we just ask that council use that 30 days to review this and implement any necessary changes to make sure that we are following all of the PUD requirements.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed.
So I would ask that they sign this letter here too, or give us, print their names.
Yes, if anybody who has spoke, if you would please sign the sheet there to your right.
Sign it.
If you would, please raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
My name is Richard Rosales, and the concerns I have at the beginning, did the city of Norwood offer tax abatements for them to build down there? I mean, what is Norwood getting in return for tax-wise coming back into Norwood? And is my garbage and water and sewage going to go up because of all the new additions? Or, are one of the citizens going to get a break on property taxes? With all the money coming in through Norwood, I don't see any, or are my taxes going to go up from all this building? There's no answer for that?
Well, the Planning Commission does not have any authority to assess taxes or make any decisions or recommendations regarding taxes.
Okay. Just wondered. Thank you.
Ma'am?
I would just like to.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd just like to remind you that the city of, the city school district has filed a lawsuit against the city of Norwood because of the tax abatements that they are requesting from Factory 52. It's a huge, huge detriment, not only to the city of Norwood, but they are trying to write the developers' playbooks for the developers, by the developers, and at the expense of the students, at the expense of the residents of the city of Norwood. That is a fact. The city of Norwood is currently under a lawsuit right now by the school district. Ann Gimbert. Thanks.
If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I always do.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you please state your name?
My name is Andrea Skank, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm here as a little bit of a Greek chorus to prick your conscience. I'm hearing from your residents, I'm hearing code being cited, and I'm not an attorney, but I'm the daughter of an attorney, and it sounds like you all are, if not breaking the letter of the law, you're certainly breaking the spirit of the law. Zoning is a promise by the municipality of how land is going to be used. People buy that land, these people who have bought these homes, thinking that they could have a trust in all of you, that you would protect their investment. I really wonder how you are going to think about this. Think about the residents who have already invested their livelihoods and their time and all that they do for your city. Because you will be nothing without your residents. Thank you.
Sir, if you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May I
Please state
begin
your
with a
name.
question? You swore in each of the citizens. I didn't see you swear in repeatedly each time the developer. I'm just curious, is that standard practice?
The developer's presentation was not,
Not considered testimony?
the developer's presentation was not part of the public hearing.
Very well. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
My name is John Zinser. I live on Edwards Road, Hyde Park, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm standing up simply because I've heard watched another citizen not be heard. I appreciate very much what was just said about a promise. I also appreciate cities want to grow. Cities want to change. Cities need new things. We can't stay where we've always been. The only way to get to that better place is not to run a city like a business, and is not to say something is good for the city when there are still citizens who are desperately trying to be heard, trying to use the tools of law, the tools that some people are paid very well to think about, to know, to use, and other people have years of practice, making them work to their benefit. I have watched this gentleman stand up 4 times and say, "Will you help me?" And I have watched 4 times this body choose not to help this man. I don't know the particulars well of this set of development, and I certainly don't know the laws, the rules for Norwood well. I know a little bit about the people who are applying to do this, because for the last 6 months, I've dedicated my life to trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing and how they do it. I would just ask you to take great care of your citizens, care of the delicate fabric of your community. Yep, you'll get some things, some new things. But what you're likely to lose, and what I feel like is slipping out that window, is a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of the importance of what is actually the highest office in this land. All due respect to everybody sitting in front of me, the highest office being that of citizen. Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Oh, sir, if you would. Actually, you've already been sworn in for this one.
I was just curious if we can see the PUD overlay, because we're here voting on it. It would be very nice for the residents and anyone in this room, news or whoever is, trying to see what we are approving. If we could please see the PUD overlay so we all understand fully what is about to happen. I don't know if it can be presented like the last, all the other meetings or not. And I don't know how citizens are supposed to look at this and you guys are supposed to approve it if it's not shown in the public hearing.
Ma'am? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
It's just the same. It's an echo of everything you've already heard. But I don't live immediately adjacent to where the driveway is proposed to go in. I live about probably 3 houses down. But it will very much affect me because when you have a driveway there and cars are turning, the lights are going to shine in the back of the house. There's going to be noise, lights, disruption all hours of the day and night. And to echo also, it may be legal, it may be fine with the codes, the ordinances or whatever, but it's really not fair. It's just not fair to the people who live there. And it very much affects our lives, our property values, our enjoyment of our property. So I just hope you would keep us in mind, as I just feel it's extremely unfair to the people that live there.
Mr. Boyle, to answer your question, this is the same PUD that was presented at the meeting about 10 days ago.
And there's new people here, and our trust factor that, how can we be certain that it is the same one? It's not shown. We have no idea if it is the same one or not.
I understand your concern, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just kind of shocked that it's not uploaded onto your website, that everybody could see it. Like, it should be, it's a public record, and it should be up on the website for everybody to see.
Anyone else who would like to speak opposed?
What are they hiding?
Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed? Okay. Seeing none, public hearing for item D5 is closed. Discussion, questions, comments from commissioners? Mr. Mayor?
I'd like to ask a question to staff. The current, the zoning that was in place for this piece of property was what? NBD, Neighborhood Business District, the same as all the homes that are along Robertson are all NBD, Neighborhood Business District. So there's a glass company right now in one of those buildings in those homes. Could be lawyers, could be dentists, could be any type of business, even still, could go along Robertson Avenue. So the people who have their home right there, the next year, somebody could purchase a home right next to them and put a massage parlor in, or say what?
She timed out. So hold your thought.
Okay, so neighborhood business district, all of those homes, residential homes that people are living in, as well as the building on the corner, all of those are neighbor, and the property that we're talking about was all zoned neighborhood business district. So then the city, in its infinite wisdom, said the developer can build whatever they want in there with very minor input from the city. So we should probably get a PUD, a planned unit development over that, to give us more control over what the developer can do. Correct? A PUD gave the city more control over it, rather than just the city saying, we don't care, go ahead, do whatever you want because it's already zoned that way, we're not going to change that. The city made the decision to put a PUD over it, which gave us more control, which gave us this venue where people are coming up and saying the city's wrong and the city's doing it wrong. But it gave the people, the citizens, the venue to come and sit down and talk and to state their concerns and say, hey, we feel these are important things. And there have already been improvements made on citizen input from the original plans, and the developer came back with original plan development changes. So that's what this whole process is. So when you come to the microphone and you say the city is doing this all wrong and we're terrible people for not listening to our residents, we are listening to the residents, and we have put processes in place to listen to the residents. Now, this is a public hearing, so we are hearing things. It's not a public discourse. It's the planning commission, the members of the planning commission. We're a statutory city. We're required to have a planning commission. These are the people that are put in place to make these decisions. And we do listen to the people. So it's strange to be accused of not listening and not trying to use the processes that are in place when we're doing just that. You wouldn't have this ability if we weren't doing those things. So that's an important aspect of it. And when the planning commission, a sanctioned body, gets to talk, that's the way it is. So a public hearing is to listen to the citizens. If you think I walk back out of here, or any of us walk out of here saying, like erase that whole conversation, we don't care, we're going to do exactly what we think. That's not true. That can't happen. It doesn't work. So that's one of the things where we have a planning commission, we have public hearings, there are requirements for the public hearing. We listen to the discourse, we listen to the discussion. We make recommendations to the developers, trying to improve upon the process, and that's what we do. So this isn't just bulldozing things through, and it would be different. I would say maybe it is bulldozing things through if the planning commission had the final decision on this. But there are 7 members, not 5 members, there are 7 members of an elected city council that look at these things also. And they're elected by all of the constituents, all of the community. And the 7 members of council are the ones who make decisions on this also. So the planning commission takes a look at it, hopefully there are improvements made, and then it goes in front of city council, and there's discussion. There's a lot of discussion. I've been to city council meetings. There's a lot of discussion at city council meetings. They ask a lot of good questions. They ask a lot of hard questions. And they put them in committee. There's a lot that goes on. So it'd be different if I thought, we were somehow steamrolling this stuff through, but the city of Norwood has a lot of discussion, a lot going on here, and it continues, and it will continue, as you all know. So I appreciate people being here and helping us understand their concerns. There's no doubt about that. We sit here, we listen, some of us take notes and think about it, and we definitely think about it when we leave these rooms. So these are important things that the Planning Commission is working on. These people are making decisions on. The citizens, these are, I think, all 5 of the Planning Commission members are citizens of the city of Norwood also. We want what's best for our city. Absolutely. So thank you. I appreciate you giving me a minute to go on my rant and stopping me in the recording. But the Planning Commission is, a duly sanctioned body to make decisions and try to make the city better. And that's what we're trying to do. So thank you for letting me rant for a minute. I don't have a real question or concern over it.
Are there questions, concerns, or discussion?
I have a question. Just a clarification, Noah.
Yes.
So this item that we're looking at now is to approve the preliminary PUD for the south development as stated on the revised drawings from PLK.
That's correct.
So, and that incorporates the Robertson parcel.
Correct.
So the preliminary PUD, it's the first part of a two-part process.
That
At
is
least the
correct.
way the city of Norwood's PUD is.
Yes.
So what specifically, I know the drawings, I mean, I'm looking right at them. Are we specifically approving 48 townhomes with an entrance off of, or an exit off of Robertson and Beach? Because it is a preliminary. So in other words, when the final comes forward to the planning commission, just as Vic said, we'll have an opportunity to also make some modifications when there's more description. But are we specifically agreeing today to the 48?
If there is an approval of either the preliminary or the preliminary and the final, that would put the 48 in there.
Okay.
That's correct.
But today is strictly the preliminary, correct?
This item is strictly the preliminary. The next item on the agenda is the final.
Got it. Okay. It is a two-step process, and that's the reason both these items are on there.
That's
Okay.
correct. PLK has requested to have the preliminary and the final both heard at the same meeting.
Got it. I understand what the ask is.
To clarify, it's an endorsement. It's a recommendation to council. You're not actually making the approval. Council does.
I got it.
Thank you, Mrs. Town.
Who'd you say makes the final decision is made by who?
Norwood City Council, so,
So we're just endorsing.
correct. We're making a recommendation.
Further discussion?
Yes, mine is more of a statement, actually. Mayor Schneider, a little bit earlier, was talking about all having a community and all of us have neighbors because we do live in a community. We do. And I do agree with that. I live on Ellesmere and I have a neighbor on either side of me and in back of me. If we endorse this, there's going to be 48 townhomes there with two people living, probably two people, one or two people living there, maybe three, along those homes. How many homes are there on Robertson that are going to be impacted? Is that, so how many?
Go down Beach and Robertson, there will be 30 homes that this development is
Impacting. So I think that's different than just having a neighbor on either side. It's very different. And it just felt wrong to me when I think of a community and neighbors, I think of our front yards and our backyards with, maybe a privacy fence between us or something. This is a very different situation. This is a community that they're building. It isn't a neighborhood, it's a community. That's all I thought.
Further discussion?
I just had a question for Ralph. I know you were having some issues, and I heard there was other meetings going on where the issues addressed as far as the build-out, the space width, the fire truck being able to have 26-foot radius.
The roads meet our guidelines for our widths of roads.
Minimum guidelines.
Minimum guidelines. They don't meet the state fire code, the Southwest Fire Code, because of the size of the building.
So which one takes precedent?
Well, I am the CBO, and when there is a discrepancy between two codes, I'm the one that makes the decision. And I make the decision that the road should be wider for the safety of the people. Well, so I picked on the stronger value to use.
And has that been communicated with PLK and they got back to you with anything or no?
They've come back, they've made changes, they've also heard from the fire department, they made some changes for the fire department, the locations of the fire hydrants. Since they really have not changed the width of the roads from the April meeting till
Any further discussion by the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain any motion.
Guess it's my meeting. I would like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to endorse the proposed preliminary PUD plan and recommend to the city of Norwood for the 4500 Beach Street, Robertson South, Norwood, Ohio 45212.
So that is a motion to approve the preliminary planned unit development. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Collins,
Yes.
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mrs. Signature,
No.
Mr. Huckabee,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart,
Oh, yes.
4-1 affirmative vote. There was a motion to recommend an endorsement of the endorsement of the proposed preliminary review plan to Norwood City Council.
Moving to item D6. Mick Oaks, Associate Developer with PLK Communities, is submitting a final planned unit development, PUD plan for the property south of Robertson Avenue, known as 4500 Beach Street, Norwood, Ohio 45212. 2.839 acreage, Hamilton County Auditor's Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0206, located within NBD PUD Neighborhood Business District Planned Unit Development Overlay, including the proposed PUD expansion, 2741 Robertson Avenue, Norwood, Ohio 45212, Hamilton Auditor Book 651, page 0030, parcel 0194-00. Mr. Oaks?
I have nothing to add, Chairman Powers, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Oaks? Thank you, Mr. Oaks. We'll now open the public hearing. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. An opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak in favor. Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. An opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
We just passed the preliminary PUD plan. We are now voting on the endorsement of a final PUD plan. There is many, many more things that must be outlined in a final PUD plan versus a preliminary PUD plan. If that PUD plan that we're voting on today is the same one that we saw at last meeting, it is violating a number of different violations in the ordinance code. There is no floor plans for the buildings. There's no number of bedrooms listed. The heights are not on that PUD. There's not a detailed landscaping plan. There's not a detailed signage planned. There's not land set aside for open space, which we've been arguing. That is not usable, accessible, or convenient. And also, I know last meeting that the fire chief still had some concerns about the turning radius. I think it would be important for the fire chief to review the final plan to see if, he agrees with that. It just seems extremely shady that we're here voting on PUD plans, yet the residents can't see them. We're told that they haven't changed, yet we just passed 2 votes earlier today to include 2741 to get that zoning changed and to put a PUD on that. So it had to change somehow because we just officially got approval for 2741 and we just added that into the new PUD. So it had to change somehow. And again, the final PUD requires a lot more of information. So if it's the same PUD from last time, that nowhere near qualifies as the final submission per the ordinance. And the final plan approval ordinance is 1155.15. And I would also argue that most of the preliminary plan did not have the required information. Descriptive data concerning sewer, water, and storm drainage. We still don't know if it's a retention or detention pond. Drainage control plan during and after construction, intended height, landscaping features, topography features or affecting common open space. 115511, privacy and residential PUD. 115505, reasonable privacy and screening. There's just a number of different ordinances that I have reviewed myself and spent a long time reviewing because I did not have faith that these would be taken into consideration. So as Ms. Sickinger stated earlier, is there a legal action that you guys are opening yourself up to if all of these ordinances are being violated? Thank you.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
If I've understood this right, and please correct me if I haven't, I'm hearing the turning radiuses are not adequate according to the code. And the fire chief has told you so, and you're approving a plan that shows the radiuses are not adequate for fire equipment to get back there. So I will play the part of clerk today, and I would urge you to reconsider that, because if there's a fire back there and those fire apparatus can't get back there, that will be a tragedy. I don't understand how you can know it's not adequate and you're going to approve the plan knowing it's not adequate. It's not an oversight, it's not a misunderstanding. You know it's not sufficient and the plan's going to be approved. I just don't understand.
Offer an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Final opportunity for anyone who would like to speak opposed. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing for item D6. Discussion by the commissioners.
So Noah, it feels like I've got to ask clarification on everything. This is actually taking the preliminary that we reviewed and making it a final PUD.
It would be endorsing it as a final.
Endorsing it, yes.
That's correct.
And I do know, and I agree with the young man, because we talked about that at the last meeting, that there's a whole list of things that were not included in this packet. And I guess I remember that meeting and said they would be submitted prior to this meeting. So I guess I'm sitting here today, were they submitted?
Mrs. Town, were there any additional submittals?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Town.
Okay, thank you. What I needed to know.
Further discussion by the commissioners?
So would it make sense for us to pause? What is the hurry? Why can't they finish phase 2? And then we circle back and deal with south? Like, why are we rushing this process?
Is that a question? I mean, a question to somebody on the commission.
If anyone can answer it.
Well, I'll jump in because I was a builder for 40 years, worked with engineers, worked with developers. This takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. Vic already said it, and I agree with him. It takes money, time, effort, and their professional leadership has to be involved. This just enables them, if the preliminary is approved, to continue advancing that drawing. It does not let them break ground. So I guess that's the reason I have no issues with a preliminary, because it has to go through a step process.
But the final.
Well, the final has to go through we have a very specific criteria that has to be approved for a final PUD. And I'm not going to speak for staff, but they shouldn't approve it if it's not there. And that's the reason I was saying, because we did have a long dialogue about the things that were missing. And I thought that's what this meeting was going to be reviewing those additional items that just didn't get submitted. That's okay. I mean, this is a process. And, but the preliminary would allow them to continue to advance the things that they've heard. I love the idea of lowering the density and putting in a turnaround back there and getting rid of the exit off Robertson, but that's not my call. But I think it's, there are options that hopefully the developer could come up with and address some of these things that they've heard. I know that they're going to lose some income, but it might actually save some money by moving some other things and meeting with their designers. So anyway, that would be my answer, is the preliminary lets them continue a very, very long, tedious process. But that's without the final. The final is another step. Okay, sorry for the...
I think that was well put, Mr. Seward. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Nobody wants to make a motion?
Like, I can, but I
I think Jeannie would want to make a motion. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'll move that the Norwood Planning Commission I don't know that it's worded exactly how I would word it. I deny the movement of the preliminary to the final at this time.
Okay, the motion is to deny the request for the proposed final PUD plan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
So a yes vote is voting to deny the plan. Mrs. Town, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Powers,
Yes?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes?
Mrs. Signature,
Yes.
Mr. Hawking,
Yes.
Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
That's a vote of 5 affirmative to deny the final PUD plan. The motion passes.
Items 7, 8, and 9 relate to moving the planned unit development in with the multicolored north parcel. Being that there is a preliminary planned unit development for the south parcel moving forward to Norwood City Council, would the developer request these items be removed at this point? Yes.
So, and just to clarify, the PUD that's already preliminary approved, separate from Factory 52. So that would supersede any actions that would happen for a contiguous PUD, correct?
If we went forward with items 7, 8, and 9, I think that would make things very confusing.
Okay, yeah, then we will withdraw those.
Thank you. Items 7, 8, and 9, D 7, 8, and 9 are removed from the agenda at the request of the developer. Moving to item E, new business. New business? Seeing none, move to item F, old business. There is no old business. We have no absent members, so we can move to item H, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Town, please call the roll. Yes.
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 We are adjourned at 5:24.